Welcome to South Beach Sessions. I'm looking forward to talking to Ndamukong Suh for a number of different reasons. Obviously, man's a menace, has been a menace for a long time. He's a businessman. No Free Lunch is now the podcast game that he has entered, as he's telling everyone to listen and talk and learn about business. The reason I'm excited about doing this, though, has very little to do with your football career. Has much to do with, I believe, that the way that you entered the league was so distrustful that we never got an ability to get to know you after that because you had to be careful and you were misrepresented as sort of a man-child before you had become an adult and you were scarred. And so I'm watching you for 20 years. I'm like, man, I really admire what he does. I'd love to know how he became all of that. He's never going to show us because he doesn't trust us.
Yeah.
And so I hope that over the course of this conversation, you will allow me to see a little more of how you became who you became, because it seemed like when fame got to you at, 2007, 2008?
No, it would have been 09, 10, things of that nature. But yeah.
You're not an adult yet.
Yeah.
You look like an adult. You play like an adult, but you're a college kid.
Yeah, you hit it on the nail on the head. I think a lot of kids and a lot of people look at kids that are in the limelight as they should be adults and they should be mature enough to be able to handle these different things versus saying, hey, they're still young adult at that, at most, and you got to let them grow into their shoes that they hopefully can fill out one day.
But take us before that then. So you're in a family with 4 sisters and you're growing up. And what are the landmarks? What are the imprints? Where are the places that you're gravitating toward football?
Yeah, born and raised in Portland, Oregon. It was at the time only my older sister, Ngum, who is probably my first idol, watching her grow up and kind of being attached to her hip, especially through middle school ages before she took off and went to college at Mississippi State to play soccer on a scholarship. Between her, obviously both my parents, my mom being a school teacher, my dad being an engineer, really fell in love with engineering. Especially with my dad being a mechanical engineer and having his own company, ride around in the truck all the time with him, go to job sites, and just got immersed in kind of those experiences. And then as sports came into our lives, which is always there, I played soccer since I was 3, and we called it in our family football. And so when I asked my mom and my dad, I was like, hey, I actually want to play American football. They were like, absolutely not. This is not something that we do in our family. It was track soccer, and maybe you could look at baseball, some things of that nature.
Absolutely not. So your dream, you're telling them you want to do football at what age? And the answer is absolutely not.
This was 8th grade. I was playing soccer in the suburbs with a bunch of friends and whatnot. And I was like, I just want to try something different in the fall. And I wanted to play football. And my mom was like, I don't see it happening. It's just too dangerous. It wasn't a lot of fun for them to watch and see everything on the news. And she was like, you're going to have to beg me to do this. And I was like, Mom, I'm going to be the one that's going to be not hurting people, but like imposing my will. And she was like, we'll see. And so she finally let me play 8th grade football. And then I went into high school freshman year, and she was like, education is the most important thing, and you got to have good grades, and 3.0 or above was her rule. And she was like, you were not playing football your freshman year. You can play basketball, because by then we had kind of like trimesters in our school system. And so my first set of grades would have came out before basketball tryouts would have come. So it's like, you'll have plenty of time before basketball tryouts. And
well, I want to get into the discipline in your household, but why was your sister your idol? Is it athletically or otherwise as well?
No, just she set the blueprint for our family. And really the blueprint was to obviously great education, be great in school, but then also earn a scholarship to go to college for free. And so my parents, like, we're not a wealthy family. We're probably lower middle class from that perspective. Had everything we needed, but not everything we wanted. And so being able to go to college and not have to have our parents pay for it was huge. And so that was that blueprint. And I just loved being around my sister. She was just always fun. She always allowed me to come, like even I was in middle school, I'd go hang out at her school for an hour and a half before my school started. And I was a big kid, so I blended in pretty easily.
So there was no choice, though. You had to be a responsible achiever. That's you were going to be a mechanical engineer, or
I was not going to follow directly in my dad's footsteps, but what I did become was a construction management engineer. So a little bit more of a broader spectrum and actually building things and managing people at the same time.
till what age, though? You're dreaming not of football. It's you understate. I know who's saying something when you say to your mom, I'm going to be the one hurting. I'm not going to be the one getting hurt. You don't understand. I'm a little stronger than anyone else.
So engineering was the focus was, I mean, all the way through and through. I mean, even finishing college, I always had the passion to come back and build a division under my dad's business. Flipped the script though, ended up buying his company and folding it under my stuff. And so it was always a goal. And even till this day, I'm on job sites, still working and enjoying and love building things with my hands. I've always been that way as a kid.
Tell me about your relationship with your father.
Man, very close one. I mean, I was with him, talked to him all the time, every single day, no matter when it was or what I was doing. He calls, I pick up, or if I didn't pick up, I told him, I'd text him, I'll call you right back within an hour or so. Both my parents were that way, but my dad was a true role model and somebody I always leaned on for multitudes of things. And it's been a tough year to say the least in this last year, just not having him here in the flesh, but I know he's always with me.
Discipline in the house, what did it look like?
Man, it's I had two parents from third world countries. My mom Jamaican, my dad Cameroonian. You do as they ask. There's no talking back. There's no nothing. Education's number one, and sports come right thereafter. And do your best and play at the highest level. Always representing that last name of ours.
But example, what does it mean to represent the last name, and what are the extremes of the discipline? What does it mean?
I mean, there's examples of discipline. I mean, ultimately, it's representing the name to the utmost respect and taking yourself to another level. And for me, it was always about being able to have them be prideful of what I was doing and never having them seen it as a disrespectful thing anything that I do in the world. And so for me, that's just kind of how I live. It's not really, examples for me. It's just a way of life.
What a weird thing, though, right? To arrive at the top of football with your name, and wait a minute, is he treating it with respect? Because he's playing entire swaths of excellence, and now there are these two or three things, one on Thanksgiving, and they end up scarring him in a way that I never get to know the real athlete in any meaningful way, because what happened to him at the beginning, boy, that had to be shitty for anyone, but it had to be particularly shitty for somebody whose name has to resonate with echoing excellence, family name has to be honored, and now the media is talking about what? Yeah,
but I think ultimately, a lot of people look at that scenario and those situations from an outsider in looking in. And when you ultimately break it down, at least for myself and for my family, is that the person's true character, or are they playing a game, or are they imposing their will, and they've just this conglomerate or this scenario of folks, and there's the piece of player safety and all these different things have changed, and so these things are being highlighted, and you just haven't seen this talent that can move this fast, can hit this hard, and it is not as seen as acceptable, for lack of better words. But yet it's within the rules, although the rules are always gray in the favor of the offense, as we all know. So ultimately, when I sit down and look at my parents, like, there's nothing that was, in my opinion, and I think in their opinions as well, that yes, there was some things that happened, things you want to take back, but I live in a lifestyle of saying, hey, I never regret anything. You learn from them, you move on. And I think the body of my work on that football field speaks for itself.
Oh, so they had your back no matter what.
No, there's no question about that. And they're going to continue to have my back.
Your father's pride, was he good about giving it to you? Is it something that you felt a lot, or was it something that you were perpetually having to earn?
No, my father was a very loving and caring person, but when he was upset, you definitely knew. But there's no question. My parents both equally loved both of us as kids, but definitely hard on us. It's like that tough love. Like you get it, and it wasn't until probably later ages as we've gotten older, you start to hear it and actually say the words, I love you, and things of that nature. And I think that's just kind of a cultural thing, but they show love in so many other ways. And I think as you get older, you start to see and realize those different things. And I think that's also a part of parenthood. Now, me being a father of twin boys, like being able to say those things at an early age and then recite it back to me, especially with them only being 4, like that is kind of the difference between my dad never was there, but give me a hug, like, and those different things. Like there's different ways that he showed, like you're going along with me. There's different ways that it was expressed versus always from a verbal standpoint.
Never from a verbal standpoint. Because you're saying some of it is cultural, but also at some point along the path, they realized you were good, you were a responsible kid, and then they didn't have to worry about you anymore. Like, he's okay, he's going to be an adult now.
Yeah, I think, but I think that's, you got to try and you raise your kids in a manner that they continue to always respect you and can give that respect, but also being able to give it to other people and finding ways for them to internalize and understand how that works.
When did you realize you were stronger than the other kids? Do you have a recollection of strength being something that was outsized for your age?
Yeah, I think early on in my childhood, playing soccer, they had these soccer goals back in the day where they were put together by PVCs, pipes, and I would kick the ball as hard as I could, and that thing would just disintegrate and break apart. So I started to realize the other kids weren't doing this. I might need to move up a couple grades and get to the real medal goals and whatnot. So I started to realize that then. And then also in football, when I played in 8th grade, I enjoyed it because it came so easy, because I could just use my natural strength and just move through people and have fun. And I really enjoyed it from that perspective. And so that's kind of where I started to fall in love with the game of football.
You realized that your strength and speed and size, that combination of things was unusual to have in one package around when?
I said ultimately, where I fully understand was probably last couple of years of high school, when I started going to Nike combines. I went to one at Texas A&M to get that exposure to see where, like, Texas football is everything, and being able to compare myself with the other kids at that combine, as well as I went to one at Stanford University, that had a Nike combine there, and the one in Oregon as well. That's where I really started to realize, like, I mean, I'm just as strong, if not stronger, and more athletic than some of these other kids. But that's not the end all be all. I have to continue to refine myself because I was behind the 8 ball in football in that technique and being able to play the game.
Where does your physical toughness come from?
Physical toughness, I would say from both my parents, but I think my dad more so, just because he played professional sports. He played professionally in Germany, soccer. And so I think that mental toughness and in that physical toughness really derives from both of them, but a little bit more from my father.
But what do you explain to a stranger who wouldn't begin to understand what your pain threshold is? How do you go about explaining to someone who wouldn't understand? Treat them as a toddler that you're teaching something.
I don't think you could ever explain the pain threshold of being able to play the game of football. I mean, a lot of people would look at playing the game of football and waking up the next morning, they are injured. And they have to go to the hospital. They got to do something and they just don't feel right. Like, it's being comfortable, being uncomfortable is how I best describe it.
You seem to have removed a great deal of the inflammation, but what you did for a living would seem to come with certain pains that would age anyone prematurely.
Yeah.
What have you done post-football? You were already taking care of yourself in a number of different ways. From what I've read, you're aggressive about making sure that you take care of yourself. So
yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of different things. I think this off season, or for lack of better words, it's it's funny. I still talk in off-season terms, in-season, off-season terms, but I would say the last probably 6 months or so, once I kind of made that decision, I'm definitely not going back to play football, and sat down with my wife in and around that. Is just cutting weight is a big thing. There's no reason for me to be walking around at 310, 315 pounds. So that's been a big piece, but I've always been a big proponent with working with my team. I've got an amazing performance director in Keith D'Amelio, and my physical therapist as well, and Charlie, and my naturopath in Dr. Sunil. Just understanding all the different things that are out there to not only take care of yourself from a longevity perspective, but also finding ways to the new cutting edge things. And I actually just came back from a procedure before I came to talk to you this morning, of being able to do that for my knees and different things of that nature, because I never want to get knee replacements or hip replacements or have back surgeries and those different particular pieces. And so being ahead of the game and understanding where the medicine grows and working with some of the best doctors that are in the States as well as outside the States is not only fun and exciting, but something that I pride myself on. And I think that's where a lot of athletes need to continue to build themselves a team that is solely dedicated to them versus relying on the teams, because there's no way mathematically you can focus on one particular athlete, even if they're the best athlete on your team. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you say Mike Evans is their number one athlete. Vita Vea is right there alongside him. Baker is right there alongside of him. They also have 90 other guys that staff has to worry about. There's no way they can give that same attention to you as an individual.
What were those conversations with your wife like?
In and around retirement? I mean, there was a lot of conversations over the last 2 years. So I've had maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 different teams that have reached out, especially in and around towards the end of the season in playoffs, to come back. And my thing was, does it make sense for me and my family to move us? We were spending a lot of time in Tampa at our house there, our house in Portland as well. And did it make sense for me to go back and play? Was it fulfilling? Or do we actually really have an opportunity to go win another Super Bowl? Because that was the only reason why I was going to go back. And ultimately, it didn't really make sense. And there was, not this past season, the season before, there was one team that actually made it to the Super Bowl, and I should have been on that roster, but things fell apart for whatever reason from a contract perspective. And I always believe everything happens for a reason, but a lot of interesting conversations. But ultimately, I think my wife gave me the best advice. Like I've had the focus of, or football has always been at the center point of my life. I've accomplished anything and everything in that space. And there's so many other things for me to go and explore. And I'm a very curious person. And so why not take that curiosity and have the entire year to be able to explore it?
Are you also curious about yourself in that way? The reason I asked the question about your wife is because it seems like a lot to tackle at once. Mm-hmm. The grief of who you used to be as an athlete combined with the grief of losing your father, and you can skip past those things and bury yourself in work or whatever the next thing is, or you can...
Yeah, you definitely can. And I think a lot of people do bury themselves in work and things of that nature. But again, you said it perfectly. My wife is amazing, and she made sure I did not do that because that was the easy thing to do, was to bury myself in work. I'm for lack of better words, a workaholic when it comes to the things that I'm passionate about. But leaving the game of football was more so easier than I thought it was going to be, because I'd always had the plan of being more successful off the field than I was on the field. And I always prepared for that time. And it was fortunate enough, where a lot of people aren't fortunate enough, to be able to be in control of that and say, I'm leaving the game on my terms, versus somebody saying, and I could never imagine having to be told, like, we don't want you ever. Like, none of these 32 teams want to have a conversation with you about anything with regard to the game of sport. But then to pile on top of that, the loss of my father, which was somewhat in that one is inevitable in everybody's life. But then at this stage of what he was going through, it was a little bit of relief, but also at the same time very hard, because he was going through so much pain. And so I didn't want to see that. And there's times that I would see him, whether it was at home or in the hospital, being along his side, where it's like, I just don't want him to be in pain. And I knew most of the time he was being so strong to stay with us because of wanting to be there for me, wanting to be there for our kids and my sisters and all those different things, which is admirable. But at the same time, like, it was very, very tough to watch.
Can you explain to people, when you say your toughness comes from him, what is it that you're seeing that we're not familiar with?
In what respects?
Well, you just said that I asked you about your physical toughness and your pain threshold. And you're like, these are the two disciplinarians here. And you said my dad more than my mom here for whatever the reasons are, because he played football. So I'm talking about, why would he be concealing still at the end if he's in a great deal of pain? Why does he still need to be strong for his young boy as opposed to receiving adult love from his oldest son?
Yeah, I think it goes back to a cultural side of things. It's you always want to be, you're seen as the man of the house and the strong point of the family, of the foundation. And for him to be in a place, maybe if he was in his 90s, okay, I can relinquish that and say, hey, you take the torch now. It's time for me to move on from that perspective. But being at the age that he was, I think there were so many conversations that we had, so many more things that he wanted to do and experience with my boys and myself. And especially from, I think, a lot of the reasons why he asked me multiple times over the last couple of years, just retire. Like, let's spend more time together. Let's go do these different things together and whatnot. And that was a lot of part of the reason too, for me not to go back and play. Is, again, being away from my family. I'm gone 8-9 hours out of the day, and then I come home, I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. Like, those are the things that people don't see and don't understand about the commitments that it takes.
You were done then, huh? You were done. Like, I rarely talk to athletes this fresh off retirement. I don't think you're bluffing, that are at peace with their decision. Cause
I'm at great peace with it. I mean, there's so much in life to do, and again, like I look at my boys, which I see a lot in my father and them. Like, just the excitement and the growth that they have in short periods of times, and the experience that I get to take them. Like, I mean, we were just not even a week ago, we were at a job site, construction site we're building some stuff, and them being able to destroy concrete, use a sledgehammer, and like that lessons, those experiences are like so priceless.
Look at you. You're radiant over here just thinking about them destroying things.
Yes, and they love it. They love destroying stuff. And we'll get in my excavator and have a ton of fun just picking through dirt.
So it just runs in the family. This is their
family, yeah.
You have all these plans. It is. You dedicated yourself. Your identity for 20 years is destroying things.
Yes.
Like, whatever they planned all week.
Continue to do them, just in a different fashion.
Why 30 businesses? Why invest in 30 businesses? Why the either interest or obsession with building that?
Yeah, the excitement. I think I was exposed leaving college from a lot of different people, most notably Warren Buffett. I mean, he's got 30 plus, 50 plus businesses himself in his conglomerate. So seeing the excitement in and around that, being able to watch how he built that organization, even though it was well built before we connected, but just seeing those different particular pieces. And I love just being able to add value to different organizations, especially outside of NIL. And so for me, it was something that I have passion about, excitement about, and be frank, love making money.
Okay, but is it puzzle solving? Is it?
It's puzzle solving. It's also being able to break down different things. I remember vividly sitting back in 2012, who's the now CEO of Nike. I was interning under Elliott Hill and asking him questions of like, why is this Nike town in San Francisco? They were within a remodel, and it was a much smaller store. I was like, why not keep that same footprint versus going back to the massive footprint of this Nike town? He was like, because they're doing more cash flow out of this. When I was looking at the P&Ls and different things like that, he was like, it's a great point and something that we should definitely consider, but it's also about the experience for people to come into this Nike town. If we don't have a bigger footprint, we're not able to give that full experience. And so those are the creative things I love being on advisory boards or boards to be able to look at under the hood and understand these different nuances to be more efficient within the businesses.
In some ways, were you trapped inside of the giant defensive tackle's body because that person really couldn't get into some of the creative curiosities? There wasn't time for it as much.
Yeah, yes and no. And I think as I got more comfortable with being out and about and kind of setting my own threshold, because there's a notion within the NFL where you're not really allowed, or they don't really want you to be focused on anything other than the NFL and your team and your focus being all about football. When they soon, and I just talked about this the other day about Caleb Williams, the quarterback for the Chicago Bears, let him live and let him have the opportunity to understand what the world is all about, because when he's able to leave and get away from football, he'll come back to football that much more sharper because he's had all these other
such a different position, though. You were playing your position. You correct me if I have this wrong, because it's not. It's an unfair appraisal to say the offensive linemen like to say they put together the refrigerator, and the defensive linemen like to say we tear it apart. Yeah. So your skill took a great deal of skill and took a lot, but it's not what a quarterback requires away from just mentally the responsibility.
But there's only so many ways you can throw an out route. There's only so many ways you can throw a go route. There's only so many ways I can play 3 technique. There's only so many ways I can play 2 technique. There's only so many ways I can play 1. So yes.
You're advocating for balance. You say,
no question,
work smarter instead of harder, go to the limits of where work smart is, and then have balance in your life so that you can be a complete human being.
1,000%. Because if you don't, you will burn out and you will most likely fail.
But was there a creative burning in there? Because you were investing in businesses. You were planning for your retirement long before you retired.
Yeah. And that's where I say ultimately having the path and the focus and the understanding, especially in the off season, and being able to be up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, train for 2-3 hours, get everything done, hit my recovery, be able to go through meetings, go to internships, do all these different particular pieces, and still have more time afterwards to be able to then say, hey, I can get back into football, and then I get a great night's rest and then go from there. So that's ultimately where I think people having that balance and that understanding, and versus just saying, only thing that I'm worried about is sports, which usually, again, like I said, you're setting yourself up for failure and really to burn out.
People like money, okay, but is that the chief motivator, or is there something else here? Like, is there something close to? Because your interest in business is unusual. You can talk about Warren Buffett, of course. You've had access to great people, but you're also unusually interested in this. What was your relationship with money growing up?
My relationship with money was probably no different than anybody else. It was something that was seen as needed and wanted in our family, and because one, again, lower middle class from that perspective, but ultimately it wasn't something that was super detrimental. And we had conversations about it every now and then. But for me, I think my interest really lies with, again, going back to being more than an athlete, being more successful off the football field than I was on the football field. And those things of being intellectually smart from a perspective is something that nobody can ever take away from me. And I think that's where, when I can walk into a room and I can have multiple conversations with multiple different people on multiple different topics, that's where I have great pride and understanding of being able to be a well-rounded human being.
Okay, so this one's interesting. You're perpetually walking into situations where people are thinking that you are X because for 20 years you were stronger than everybody.
No question.
And you don't like that so much.
It's not that I don't like it. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed being able to be known for playing at a highest level of football from that perspective. But I don't want to be defined by that and saying that that's the only thing that I'm known for and the only thing that I was good at. Like, I can work with my hands. I can build things and I can design things. I can create generational wealth for other people, like being able to now, the mentorship that I've been given from other great people that I still get to this day, being able to pass on that knowledge. And I mean, I was just on a phone call before I even came in here, talking about real estate and strategically planning how to help this person buy a house and for them to find a way to lease to own. Like that to me is like, I just love having those conversations. Like I should probably be a real estate agent, but I don't really have that fulfillment. I've run to do that more so for fun. I'd rather build the house than actually go.
I don't know if you know how you light up talking about other things in a way. I don't see you light up talking about football.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that you're probably somewhere feeling like people don't actually see you because once you walk into a room with your name, there's an assignment of things there that are unseen and seen.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I have been fortunate to where people do recognize me more for football, or not more for football, but outside of just football. And so there are times, but ultimately, again, I want to be able to have the ability to be more than just a football player.
But you're saying it's important to you to be more successful off the field than on the field. Well, what do you mean? Yeah, of course.
Well, I played football, let's just say 25 years.
It went pretty well.
Yes.
Gonna be hard gonna be hard to top
for
that.
38.
I'm not underestimating
38.
It seems dangerous.
Let's just round it to 40. I got another 30, 35 years to work and build and learn. And like, to me, like that is the exciting part of retirement.
But why more success away from the field? Like you feel there's a need to achieve.
To be honest with you, I'll be able to impact more lives. I've been able to impact a lot of lives in football and share a lot of knowledge. And I think that's one of the reasons why I started No Free Lunch is because I now have a bigger platform to impact more people.
The reason I ask what were the conversations like with your wife, though, is because she knows what it will be to have Ndamukong home when he's not getting as much of his identity from football or whatever needs to be let go from football. Like she knows what's going to be. Now, I'm not going to say puttering around the house because it insults you, but somebody who doesn't have the maniacal focus that requires, because nothing in your life will ever require the maniacal focus that requires.
Yeah. Yeah, she does. She does have a great vision of that. And I think that she would be a better person to ask that because ultimately, like, I love experiences and finding ways, again, to build things and help others at the same time. I was having a conversation the other day with somebody. It's like, as long as you don't tear me down as a human, use me as a stepping stool all you want. Like, that is exciting to be able to see somebody else be building success because I help them and or they leverage me in some form or fashion. That's exciting.
Is there a way that I, as an interviewer, can get the radiance from you on anything football related that I get on the other challenges in your life? For example, do you know how many touchdowns you have? Clearly, you know how many touchdowns you have, right? You know the number.
Is it 3?
Yeah, I mean, and you remember each of them? No, I mean...
I don't remember each of them. I remember one vividly because I got yelled at. It was against the Redskins in Detroit. I was, I think it wasn't Randall. Something Randall. I was swinging the ball and my coach got super mad at me because he's like, "You got to high and tight. Don't fumble the ball." I was like, "Coach, I was in the end zone." So, but I don't remember every single play.
So you got yelled at the one you so up the 3. You're remembering the one that you showboated on your way to the end zone because you held the ball up.
Yeah, and then I think another one. Oh yeah, when I left from, it was a year after I left LA. We came back in Tampa in 19, and Shaq Barrett got a strip sack against Goff. I think he was still there, and I picked it up and ran, I think, like 40 yards and hit 22 miles an hour. So, but I don't remember the third one.
You think, you're not sure.
Yeah, you think
you hit about 22 miles an hour? Because things that size generally don't move that well. Yeah. Take some pride in that one. How about given your love of money, do you know an exact amount that you've been fined? Like, do you know the total amount of money that you've been fined and what percentage of it you would deem fair or unfair?
I do not.
I don't either, by the way. I'm just asking because you keep track of money.
I do not know that number, but I would imagine it's probably in the 250 to 500 range from that perspective. And I would probably say of the validity of me actually being fined for them, maybe 1%.
So 99% of the fines were just the nonsense.
We're playing a contact sport. And things happen.
So you take 1% responsibility. The rest of it is, look at what we're doing. Look at what you're asking us to do for a living.
I'm sure there's been people that have done a lot worse. So,
do you recall at any point in your career being up against somebody and saying, this person is simply stronger than I am? This strength is too much for me.
wow. That's the first time I've ever been asked that question. It's usually about 2 or 3 people that I'd have to have that be the case. One individual person, maybe Leonard Davis.
Okay, that's good company. All right, because that's a lot of weight. That was also
But I would say, if I don't remember, or if I remember correctly, excuse me, I would say him and Doug Free, I believe, were on the same line in 2010 with the Cowboys. And I was like, wow. Yeah, that was some heavy weight on that double.
So not even late in your career, though, you could feel, okay, I'm a little weaker now because aging, because not even late in your career, huh?
If I ever felt that way, it was time to retire.
Okay.
And at that point in time, I'd firing Keith and Charlie and Doc Sunil. So at that standpoint, no.
What a blessing, though. I can't imagine. If you've not talked with other players about this, I don't think there are a lot of players who would have the worldwide life experience of 18 years, and I never really felt like anyone was actually stronger than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was guys that were out there younger and stronger, but I think as you get wiser, you know how to use different muscles and parts of your body to gain leverage. I remember me and Aaron Donald, we were wrestling in, I think it was at the Air Force, because we were supposed to go down to Mexico to play in that game. So we went up to Colorado and we were playing, and we were messing around at practice or something like that. And he grabbed me. I was like, man, you're strong, but I had to pick him up and show him, like, I'm still big dog and still got some strength over you. So I think it's knowing how to use it from that perspective.
You didn't just describe Aaron Donald's strength as reminding him he's a little puppy and there's still a bigger dog.
He's a big, strong guy, but I also got him on height. So I got some.
Well, you also have about 30 pounds, or you?
Yeah, definitely got some weight on him as well. So,
but still, though, why would you and Aaron Donald come to just be wrestling around? Because I don't think mortal humans.
We were just joking around. Like we had fun. I mean, that was a fun year with him and all those guys, especially Akib and Marcus Peters. Man, I love those dudes. They were a fun bunch to be around.
I don't think, though, that mere mortals would totally understand whatever you and Aaron Donald understand about violence, about physical. So how would you explain it to somebody who cannot understand what it means for two people who know they're stronger than everyone else and faster than everyone else to test each other against themselves?
Think of a Tesla, Ferrari, and a couple freight trains colliding at their top speeds. That's what it's like.
Because you're both two people who also care about your craft and didn't come by that strength just naturally. Like you both know what it took to get there. And so you know what it is to tell Aaron Donald,
yes,
not yet.
Yeah. No, it's not even that. It's just a matter of, like, you understand, like, you know how to move, you know how to understanding what's the way to function. That's the key, is being able to maneuver yourself and put yourself in the position for the most success.
What do you miss
about football? Sundays. And I'd probably say Sunday nights and Monday nights from a football perspective. Those were, everybody's watching you. No other games are on. And you get to go out there and showcase your talent. Like I was on the football field last year versus, or commentating, because I work with Sky Sports, announcing games and in studio as well. And we were at the Minnesota versus San Francisco game, and like that energy on the football field is something special. So I would say I miss those as well. And fans talking crap to you because you're on the away team.
But explain it to us, though. When you say the energy is something else, it'll never be recreated. You will live another 40 years and you will not feel whatever that is.
Yeah, I think the best way to explain it is the lights, camera, action, everything is focused in on you and your teammates. And I always say this, I enjoyed being on the road. Like, it was one of the most fun times to be able to be on the road and be able to have that excitement of just band of brothers going out there and competing. But the ultimate piece is you're out there and you're going to create havoc, and you're going to make those fans go home upset because you came into their house and took care of business.
One of my favorite football stories is Fuad Reveiz taking down John Randall in the locker room because he was a high school wrestler and John Randall was all the menacing things he was. What is the story that you have as a go-to story from your almost 2 decades of locker room experiences where someone either tested or tried you, or you had to just do whatever has to be done in the locker room to make sure that the hierarchy remains what the hierarchy must remain? You've got a story there. I'd like any one of those that are making you smile as you decide which ones can be told and which ones can't.
The funny thing is, I don't know if I have a story, because I think a lot of it really more or less came to guys being afraid to approach me because, all right, they're coming outside in, whether it's in Tampa or LA or whatever it is, and they're like, his reputation's like, he's not friendly. And then they get to know me, or I say what's up to them, like, what's going on, like, let's have a conversation, and they're like blown away. And so I would say it was ultimately the reverse. I had to actually be the one to break the ice with a lot of people, for them to feel comfortable to have conversations. And I'm also one of those folks, like, I'm a true introvert, so I keep to myself, and like I hang out with the guys, but also and do dinners and different things of that nature. But ultimately, like, I just love going to take care of business. So I'm on Zoom calls, I'm taking meetings and doing other things.
True introvert, though? True introvert is the one who likes the feeling of the energy of the gladiator spectacle on Sunday and Monday night.
But what gladiator doesn't? That's the key. So it's like, yeah, but I mean, I think I was a total opposite. It was more or less, I had to go and break the ice with most guys. Like, I remember Vita, like, and he's a close family friend now, and talking to him the other day, it's like, I had to break the ice with him. He was like, he had no clue, and especially he had Gerald McCoy there, and Gerald's a very outgoing, fun-loving guy. And so, like, he had like no clue how we were going to interact, and like we're super close friends now.
Is it fair to say that it bothers you that people arrive at you with a preconceived notion?
No, I think it's more so ignorance than anything. And I'm used to it at this day and age. So it doesn't bother me by any means. And I also get to use it as my advantage. If I don't want to talk to somebody, just keep it moving.
But you're saying actual introvert?
Yeah. I mean, in my heart of hearts of like, got my small core friends, and I was just talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and it's like, and I could never see it in him, but he was like, man, I'm a true introvert as well. And it's like, but you're so outgoing. But he's like, I'm only outgoing with my small group of friends. And that's really how I am.
So if you're an introvert, you arrive at professional success and fame, and now in one of those games that everybody is watching, there's a Thanksgiving scar that hits you, and 99% of it is wrong, and 1% of it you'll cop to. What is it like away from the field to live the life of the introvert who is now being associated with something that feels unpleasant?
I would say feeling unpleasant about anything, it truthfully, shouldn't bother anybody, or let alone myself, from that perspective, because you know who you are as an individual, and you continue to, yes, everybody makes mistakes, and you live through those mistakes. Everything happens for a reason, but ultimately, is that allowing you to be defined as that particular?
So you skipped right past it. It wasn't anything that mattered in any meaningful way, or you just won't let people see it anyway. It's none of your business.
You address it, and then you move on. I think the best way is how do you address it, and then you move on from that standpoint. If you sit there and harp on something for life, you're again doing a disservice to yourself.
So what are you proudest of when you look back on your career?
Proudest of? I would say outside of the relationships that were built with the many teammates and coaches and long life relationships, I'd probably say outside the championship as well. I mean, 2014 was an amazing year. I mean, we still have our group chat from 2014, and I remember reminisce all the time of like, I think we should have won the Super Bowl that year in 2014. And I mean, having Calvin and that great group of offensive guys, but to set records from a defensive perspective, I mean, that was one of the most prideful years that I had, and had a great coach in Jim Washburn and Chris Kasurek, who's with the 49ers now. Like, it was just an amazing team. Jim Caldwell was one of the best coaches I've ever had in my life.
So what was it about that group? Was it that it was winning that created the chemistry, or the chemistry that created the winning?
I think it was more so the chemistry, and really that chemistry started with Jim Caldwell, especially within not even, people would say a year, I'd say within 2 to 3 months of him being that head coach, he turned that organization around to be something special.
What are your sisters like? Like, what is the relationship between you and your sisters, and the way that they know you in a way that nobody does?
Well, my younger sisters, I mean, they're all young, so they see me as NFL star and all these different things, and super rich and successful from that perspective. But my older sister, who I'm the closest with, because we obviously grew up together, it's one of those interesting relationships. She's like, you're always going to be my little brother, so I'm always going to have my thumb on you. And like, I really appreciate that from her. But the excitement to build things together with her early on in my career, and she kind of went off in the last 4 or 5 years or so and built a bunch of stuff on her own and kind of spread her own wings. But then the last couple of years, just for us, just doing really interesting things and supporting each other on those different.
But you're the little one, so you're
the little brother, though.
Well, yeah. But that would make you the little one with everybody, right? It would have made you, in some ways. When you were talking about your father, I was noticing what my relationship was with my father on television. I was never anything other than his son. Oh, he never considered me the boss. He never considered me anything other than his son, and so that's the relationship we have. He wasn't going to look past that. Men of a time, men of a generation. Yeah. He was not going to say whatever needed to be said or change whatever needed to be changed to have a different relationship with me than that one.
Yeah, and that's exactly really what it was. And I think that's something that comes with, for my little sister, will become with time, because they're so young that they don't really understand like the differences and all that stuff. And then really the imprint comes from them being at school and their classmates and all that stuff and those conversations. But yeah, my sister doesn't look at me any different than her little brother.
So after games, was the conversation among the people who love you just loving, or was there also criticism of the things you had done wrong, as if they knew something about the game that you didn't know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's always criticism and could have done better. My mom's probably my biggest critic. She's, even when we were in elementary, middle school, and high school, she always challenged me to do more and do better. So there's no question about that.
Your biggest critic was the one you had to explain, no, Mom, I'm going to be the one hurting the others. She was your biggest critic. How?
Biggest critic is like, why didn't you get this sack? Why did you miss this? Why didn't you do that? Like, it wasn't my play to make, Mom. Like, I had my position, and you got to feed it to other teammates. And so it's also her learning the game too, from that perspective. And she's into it now. She has parties, whether they're for Nebraska games still to this day, for NFL games. She's part of the NFL Moms organization and whatnot. And so she's definitely a lot of excitement in and around the sport now that she understands it.
When you go back to looking at what it was to be the biggest prospect coming out in 2010, what did you imagine your career was going to be at that moment? And how close did you come to either reaching the expectations or exceeding your dreams?
Wow. That's a great question. I don't think I had any expectations other than to not be a bust. And I think that was something that I kind of looked at the whole Ryan Leaf situation and Jamarcus Russell situations, and yes, they're quarterbacks, but ultimately, like, just to never have that title of being a bust. But I also wanted to pay homage to all the other people ahead of me. So, if I'm not mistaken, Charles Haley and Russell Maryland both trained me before I got drafted. And I remember vividly, especially spending a lot of time with Russell Maryland and then just seeing all of the successes he had, like living up to that standard and exceeding that has always been my goal. And we actually, when I announced my retirement now a couple of weeks ago, he sent me a message and we went back and forth, and I said I just wanted to pay homage and respect to the way you guys played. And he's like, man, you've done that and exceeded. And that's probably one of the best compliments I've ever gotten.
Can you explain to people who don't understand, though, how serious you were about your craft, like the kind of meticulous care that it took? Because I suspect that people might believe that a holy man reached into your crib and gave you some sort of gift that he didn't give the rest of us. And it would underappreciate the amount of rigor that your efforts took.
Yeah, there's no question that I was definitely given a lot of favor from the man above, but ultimately that can only take you so far. You have to ultimately take those blessings and continue to grow upon them. And I think the one thing that he did give me, and my parents gave me as well, is the determination and focus and not afraid to be different. And I think when a lot of people wanted to go out and party and have fun, I chose not to, and I chose to get up early mornings. And I think I would always give people a hard time for not getting up early, like waking up at 10 o'clock and start working out. Like, I've completed my workout and I've already started 10 other things. And for me, that discipline and that drive week after week, month after month, year after year for 13 years straight and beyond, because I was still preparing to go back in the last year and a half. And so for me, that is what people don't see and don't understand what goes into that. And the late nights on Thursday nights, or leaving a Monday night football game knowing you got a Sunday game, or leaving a Sunday night game knowing you have a Thursday game, and I'm up till 2-3 o'clock in the morning doing physical therapy with my guys and doing IVs and doing all these different particular pieces. Like, people don't see that and don't understand what goes into that. And I think more recently people have started to talk about the financial aspects of that, but it's the time and energy and details that go into that.
Well, take us through it, though. You realized at some point that the whole thing is a science, it's an economy, that you are the glowing nuclear epicenter of your business at 3 o'clock in the morning when it needs fluids and repair.
Yeah. And I mean, sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber, and there's so many different modalities that people use. And so I think we'd have a whole episode on what it would take.
But you spent a lot of money on the economy of making sure that your body was taken care of, that all the healing things were taken care of.
100%. And having doctors, the best of the best on the East Coast and the West Coast, leaving a game, having a chipped bone in your knee and playing through that for an entire season, through a Super Bowl, playing on a torn PCL. And like, there's so many things that go into that people have no clue.
What's the worst of it that people don't know? What's the worst of it? Yeah, just when you're thinking about, I went to such lengths in order to make sure that I did not miss Sundays, because I thought pretty high on your list would have been on things you're proud of that you're available. Like,
yeah, but I see that as something that, outside of a freak accident, you should always be available. And I think that goes back to the pain tolerance comment of being able to understand, like, some people may consider it an injury, but I see it as a boo-boo. We got to move on. And like, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured from that perspective. And for me, yeah, like, being available is what I was built on. Like, you didn't miss games in high school. You didn't miss games in college. Why are you missing games in the pro? And why are you taking yourself out? Granted, now if you don't end up being stupid and like playing in the 18th week because you want to go get statistics versus resting for something and trying to go win the playoffs and get to a Super Bowl. So,
but let me press on you. Let me press on you as the critic who's not in the arena. Explain the pain tolerance to me. I'm sitting here, and Ndamukong Suh needs to play harder in the fourth quarter. Explain to me the pain tolerance.
I think the best example is you've just played 15, 20 snaps straight, come out for one, and you're right back in. And or you're dead dog aside, and you got to find a way within 3 to 5 seconds to catch your breath and then get back, put your hand back in the dirt. Like those things, I don't think you can't explain them and give a true meaning behind them unless you actually experienced it.
You can't do it for me. Maximum exertion every down. You cannot be less strong than this person or you will end up under 4 people.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to like compare it to anything that you would do in the everyday life.
So how do you replace it though? Like what are the things that will give you the fulfillment that does every burst because you're challenging yourself to there's a challenge and a measurement every 15 seconds.
Yep. I don't need it, to be honest with you. I don't need to be fulfilled. I've been able to fulfill it for 13 years straight, and I know that I could do it if I wanted to do it. Even till this day, if I really wanted to go back, I could go back. Somebody made me an offer that made the most sense, and I didn't have to go to camp. I could show up halfway through the season and get into playoffs and you give me a fair share of those game checks. Like I could pick up and go and get trained for that in 2 seconds.
Tell me what you're doing with the podcast, why it is that you want this out in front of people.
Yeah, so the podcast is something that I'm very, very proud of, and it's been in the works for, myself personally, for probably about 2 or 3 years. I just finally found the right partner. I had about three groups in total that I was working with and communicating with. And over probably the last year, obviously landed with the New York Times Athletic. And ultimately, the goal of the podcast is to share knowledge and information around business, financial literacy that I'm a big proponent about, and wanting to share the ways of building success throughout life. And it can come in multiple different forms. And how can you ultimately implement it into your life as an individual, which I'm very big on. Like you can be taught all these different things, but if nobody gives you somewhat of a playbook how to go and implement it into your life, it's very difficult for people to translate that. And so that's what I wanted to have as the genesis of the conversations with No Free Lunch.
You want people to see more of you, or not as important as what it is that you're saying?
From a visual perspective, me as an individual, I could care less about you.
No, see more, not see more of you in terms of accessibility, see more of who you are.
Yes, more of me as a person.
The real you.
Yes, yes. You get to see a whole different dimension of me that I kept a lot of the times because of the NFL private, and not having to be able to have those conversations because don't want to have coaches and teams think that I'm distracted and my focuses are elsewhere.
Well, I found that as an interview in terms of getting to the stories that in the locker room, that I'm not going to actually get to them because you have a respect for the sanctity of that place, that's never going to happen to you in front of a microphone. Never once are you going to be telling the story that might indeed be the greatest of football stories, but because you let it leak from the locker room.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely a keep it in-house person, and I don't always want to share things. It's good to have some visibility, but not all visibility.
But you respect the sanctity of that workplace and what it takes to perform there in a way that someone like me couldn't even understand, even though I've reported on it all my life and talked to interesting people about it. Unless I've lived it, I would not know or understand the honor and respect that you have for that sanctum.
And I think a lot of it, to your point, is very difficult to explain unless you're actually in it. And then you can start to see the correlations of everything and how it all works.
but we'll never understand it. It's America's most popular sport, and we've got thousands of people talking about it all the
That's
time.
the excitement about
who
it.
don't understand it the way you do. But I will say, No Free Lunch is the name of his podcast. You will see more of him there. It's primarily business stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because this is where your interest is.
Business of sports, and everything through and through. So we had some amazing guests already. Candace Parker, a bunch of different people. Larry Miller with the Jordan brand, who I'm a part of, and whatnot. So a lot of exciting conversations. Looking forward to many more of them.
Thank you, sir, for the time. I appreciate the entire body of work.
Yes, I appreciate you, and it's been a long time since we've been able to catch up. Especially most of the time, it's always over video or over the phone.
Yes, it's just for content. There's no real human interaction.
Yeah.
Just what can we televise? What can we monetize most immediately? Appreciate, though, the both the vulnerability and the places where you're not going to be vulnerable, because fuck it. We bothered you at the beginning of your career, and we shouldn't have done that to you. It was a little too strong.
All good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.